Colleagues, my name is Pamela Nardo. I'm a Senior Education Officer at Education Scotland. I'm here with my colleague Maria, who will introduce herself shortly, and we're delighted to speak to you with regards to Scottish curriculum developments in relation to numeracy and mathematics. The intentions of today's session is to share insights on Scotland's review and reform of the curriculum as part of the curriculum improvement cycle. We're going to highlight the collaborative approach to co-design and shared ownership and that co-construction. And we're going to reference some specific research findings and policies that's been driving the need for change and the approach that we have adopted. And we're also going to share insights into a curriculum-specific self-evaluation framework that we believe will provide scaffolding and support schools for adoption. And I'm going to hand you over to Maria.
Thank you, Pamela. Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Docherty. I'm delighted to join you today. I'm an Education Officer at Education Scotland, and my background is primary and early years, but I have provided support across all sectors. My main remit at the moment is co-leading the curriculum improvement cycle for mathematics, and I just would like to take some time today to share with you some context and background information in relation to the curriculum improvement cycle, or the CIC process as it's known. Next slide, thank you. So this journey began following the 2021 OECD report called Scotland's Curriculum for Excellence into the Future. And this report evaluated Scotland's Curriculum for Excellence, or CFE as it's known, and concluded that while CFE's vision and flexibility remained highly valued, the system required a more structured and strategic approach to curriculum review and implementation. It emphasised that knowledge, skills and understanding should not be taught in isolation, but integrated to develop the four capacities, which are successful learners, confident individuals, responsible citizens and effective contributors. One of the key recommendations of the report was around the need to review, update and declutter the curriculum, so we had to consider what stays in and what is taken out. We were also advised to consider a big ideas approach, which had been used successfully by other high-attaining jurisdictions. In order to gauge what was working well across different curriculum areas, and also to address and discuss areas of improvements, groups were commissioned to support some of the thinking around curriculum review. Next slide, thank you. Pilot curriculum reviews were planned for and took place between February 2023 and April 2024. And explored aspects of 5 of 8 curriculum areas, which included English, expressive arts, health and wellbeing, modern languages, maths and social subjects. The pilots provided opportunities to trial and evaluate different approaches and methodologies that could be used in a full curriculum review cycle, including methods of engagement and recruitment. The pilots also offered an opportunity for Education Scotland to explore with educators and stakeholders their views on the position of knowledge and the wider tensions experienced within the current curriculum, such as the technical framework, as well as consider some of the key features of a curriculum which works for educators, also meets the needs of young people and is equipped to meet the needs of further education, employers and wider society today and into the future. These reviews engaged approximately 1,000 teachers, practitioners and stakeholders and resulted in the creation of a new systematic curriculum improvement cycle designed to update and strengthen the National Curriculum for Excellence. The reviews highlighted a need to better balance knowledge and skills across the broad general education and prevent an over-reliance on subject knowledge in the senior phase. They presented an opportunity for educators to be actively involved in discussions and make meaningful contributions which shape the work. This co-creation collaborative approach proved to be highly effective, and this model is now embedded in the 10-year improvement cycle model. Next slide, please. Alongside the pilot curriculum review engagements and the findings and recommendations from the OECD report, we also looked intensely at education research and evidence, and we also looked outwards and had high-level discussions with other jurisdictions who were able to share lessons learned. We then had to consider how we could apply some key features of high-attaining systems to our Scottish context. Next slide. Thank you. It was proposed through this consultation phase that the technical framework should provide clarity on the role and purposes for knowledge and skills, greater clarity on the knowledge and skills learners should have at key points in their learning, clarity on progression from early learning and childcare onwards, a clear and coherent position on cross-curricular expectations, appropriate flexibility and autonomy for teachers and practitioners, parameters for the selection of content and a process for prioritising and deprioritising, adaptability to the realities of the different nature of sectors and subject areas, and finally a 3 to 18 alignment and consistency with the senior phase. These became our success criteria and are considered at every juncture as we continue to evolve the technical framework. Next slide. We worked with a co-design group of educators and stakeholders between December 2022 and May 2023 to explore what a cycle of curriculum review may look like for Scotland. Additionally, discussions were held with international educators and a comparative study considering approaches taken in other countries to review curriculum was also undertaken to inform this work. A number of common features were identified from this analysis of how other systems across the world reviewed and updated their curriculum. And from this research, a model for curriculum review consisting of 4 distinct but interlinked stages was developed. The first stage, analysis, is the stage that I've already outlined, and this involved reviewing feedback from practice on how the curriculum is working at all levels and helped identify areas for closer focus. Phase 2, which is the engagement and co-creation phase, this is the phase we're in at the moment, involves planning, engagement and collaborating, and also processing feedback to test draft work streams and documentation. The phase that we will move into shortly is phase 3, the share, learn and adopt phase, and this involves local capacity building and professional development. It also includes development of support material and the monitoring of experiences of practitioners and learners. The final stage is the mobilise, monitor and evaluate stage, and this will help mobilise the system around the approach and implementation. Once the new approach is mainstream, the cycle begins again in terms of monitoring and evaluation through inspectorate reports, research and ongoing feedback. And the last stage, in particular the evaluation element, is interlinked with stage 1, which is the analysis, and this would then close the review cycle. It's anticipated that the cycle will take around 10 years to be completed. Next slide. Thank you. To ensure we were being completely transparent and the process was truly collaborative, various groups were formed, including a core group, which is made up of approximately 25 participants. This group is made up of early learning and childcare practitioners, additional support needs staff, primary and secondary practitioners, local authority quality improvement managers, initial teacher education representatives, Qualifications Scotland and representation from Scottish Government. The core group worked closely with our team as we work through the stages already outlined. We meet in person and we also plan for additional online sessions as and when required. To date, our core group members have been instrumental in shaping and informing the direction of travel by discussing and supporting big ideas, mathematical concepts, mathematical skills, and have provided invaluable support and feedback on any draft documentation in relation to mathematics. An essential element of their role is to update and engage their own networks by cascading important messages and updates, and to gather feedback from the wider system to help make the documentation as robust and coherent as possible. We also engage with a collaboration group, which is made up of approximately 100 participants, and where possible, the ratio of practitioners to other participants is 3 to 1 respectively. And this is to allow for practitioner representation across local authorities, sectors, roles and experience. We were very fortunate to already have existing networks in place, so relationships with the core group and collaboration group members were already built and maintained. We meet with the collaboration group members in person and again online as appropriate. And their role consists of gathering feedback on emerging proposals, sense checking and testing for possible solutions, engage in sharing, learning and adopting, but most importantly, we want them to be advocates for the overall curriculum improvement cycle work. Alongside this, we also have Education Scotland Associates supporting the work. We have regular spotlight sessions across our national networks and platforms, and we have various critical friend networks to call on as and when required. Next slide, please. Thank you. A common feature of systems that have transitioned to an enhanced competency-based model is the adoption of a technical framework, which combines the notion of big ideas within a know, do, understand framework. This approach seeks to address the challenges outlined earlier by explicitly addressing and clarifying the position of knowledge, whilst also maintaining the benefits of developing wider competencies. So the model or structure that we would focus on would include what we want learners to understand, and we would achieve this through the identification of big ideas and by ensuring a relentless focus on key conceptual understanding. It would also focus on what we want learners to know and do at key points in their learning, and indications of how this learning will progress and develop conceptual understanding across the different curriculum areas. Next slide, please. Thank you. These are our draft aspirational big ideas, and they highlight the main importance and purpose of the mathematics curriculum. It is the totality of all three of these big ideas that will lead to long-lasting improvements. Next slide. Thank you. We are fast approaching some deadline dates. We will shortly be sending out in draft some sample materials to the wider system for feedback and consultation. This will be staggered between June 2026 and January 2027, when a more finalised and refined Know, Do, Understand framework will be released. And beyond that, we will be working towards formal adoption as we move into the third stage of curriculum design. This will also include the creation of materials to support our senior phase and qualifications phase. Thank you for listening. I will now pass you on to Pamela.
Thank you, Maria. So the next part of this presentation is to share with you the self-evaluation framework that I noted at the beginning of the presentation. So from this slide, you'll see that the Education Scotland's How Good Is Our School National Self-Evaluation Framework is here and hyperlinked. And I want to just spend a moment just to reflect on the fact that we already have in Scotland a well-developed system of self-evaluation. Schools and settings work with the local authorities, and we have 32 within Scotland who hold the statutory responsibility for improving and delivering the quality of education to the children, young people and families who live within their communities. We work together using this national framework so that we can identify where we're going, things that are going well, and next steps for improving practice. Local authorities work with head teachers to provide detailed quality assurance policies and quality improvement processes that ensure high quality learning and teaching across all of the schools within their area. The National How Good Is Our School shared framework provides a shared understanding of standards across all of Scotland, and they're used by local authorities as part of their validated self-evaluation processes, but they're also used as part of shared quality indicators for external scrutiny led by His Majesty's Inspectors of Education. You'll see within this slide the core quality indicators which are used for inspections. They're illustrated by a star, 1.3, 2.3, 3.1 and 3.2, in addition to 2.1 safeguarding, which is a feature of all of the inspections. And the key questions that we used and borrowed from this when we were considering our curriculum self-evaluation framework are the ones at the bottom right. How are we doing? How do we know? And where are we going? What are we going to do now? So in terms of the improvement for change, currently there's lots of successes going on within the Scottish education system, and you can see some within this slide. This is a summary of inspection findings from all of last session in terms of early years, primary and secondary. And you can see that some of the emerging evidence of strengths is when we have school improvement plans that are aligned and evaluated, when we've got middle leaders who are very clear at driving departmental improvement plans and they're aligned to that whole school mission for change. when we are working in terms of our professional learning. For individual teachers and practitioners, when it's aligned to the school improvement plan, it's very specific and focused, and we have a very shared culture of improvement within our settings. In terms of success for Quality Indicator 2.3, we know young people learn best in a calm and supportive inclusive environment. So we did consider some of the strong practices in relating to culture and an ethos, particularly in terms of the curricular area for mathematics and numeracy. And we've identified where young people are most motivated when staff have high expectations of them, when they're very clear about where they are in their learning, when young people can identify their own skills and next steps, and when there is consistency in teaching experiences and learning experiences throughout the school. When young people understand what they're learning, why they're learning, and assessment feedback empowers children and young people to take leadership of their own learning. There are, however, improvements in that quality indicator when we see that maybe young children and young people are maybe not being appropriately challenged or supported in their own learning, that maybe learners' needs could be strengthened, and that maybe there is an issue with regards to pace and inconsistencies in relation to the quality of learning, as I've referenced already. In terms of assessment, we can see that where there is valid and reliable judgments, we've got a suite of evidence has been used, and teachers are engaging in moderation, sharing understandings and sharing understanding of progression within a level, progression of learning, knowing ways in which children and young people can demonstrate their knowledge and understanding using a variety of outcomes. So this information very much was used in terms of why we felt, in terms of inputs to improve learning and teaching to lead to that output of raising attainment of achievement, we felt there were areas that we could use to provide a framework for curriculum improvement. In relation to strong practice, when staff are discussing learning, when they're discussing pedagogy, when they're building their assessment, we can see that smoother transition across primary and secondary. We can see the smoother transition, across the broad general education and the senior phase. And also our young people feel much more confident in terms of progressing and moving through their learning. In addition to our national inspections that go on across our sectors, we have been fortunate to have 2 thematic inspections across all sectors for numeracy and mathematics. This slide takes some quotes from the 2024 thematic on mathematics, with a specific focus on secondary and learning and teaching and assessment. We also, as part of a co-design group, when we looked at creating a self-evaluation framework for our curriculum area, looked at the quality indicators in greater depth, and we extracted some of the themes and statements to consider as staff within the education system working at different levels. Do we feel that we have got a shared understanding of that ourselves individually, as a group of teachers across the whole school and authority? And it was important to recognise that whilst individual staff or whilst in individual schools they did feel there were areas that they were really strong at, this was inconsistent across the system as a whole. So staff had shared that there was a need to make sure that we highlighted on quality moderation. We spoke about quality of learning and teaching to make sure that staff are gathering a range of data, and that self-evaluation very much sat at the heart of that learning, teaching and assessment process, and that staff and stakeholders and children and young people themselves were very much at the heart of identifying evidence and next steps to improve their practice. In terms of learning, teaching and assessment, staff spoke about how we need to make sure that learners' experiences are appropriately challenging, that we need to make sure that there's a purpose, clear purpose and shared understanding of why we're learning, and that children and young people's views are acted upon, and that question and next steps and feedback is used to support that progression in learning. We worked with staff to look closely at individual statements, and we did take a very reflective approach on, do we see this within our schools? Do we see this within all our classrooms? Do we see this within all our departments? And this generated ideas to create a very much scaffolded framework that could help us, particularly through the lens of our subject area. We took all the good essence of how good is our school in terms of what successful approaches to self-evaluation should look and feel like. Staff spoke about having robust, honest conversation means that we have to have a platform or a shared language, a shared platform where we can share ideas and feel that we can discuss that progression in an impartial way, that we can learn from each other in a safe environment where we can identify good practice, we can discuss resources, and we can learn from one another. Staff also highlighted that there was a perception that the role of self-evaluation sat at those with middle leadership or senior leadership, and we used this illustration from How Good is Our School to highlight it's actually the role of everyone within the Scottish education system, from the local authorities all the way through to a community of schools primaries working together along with their secondary, to stage partners, departments that are being led in primary school where you may have 2, 3 triple stream stages, all the way to the class teacher within the classroom, knowing what school improvement priorities are and how that aligns to their own professional development and next steps. We spoke about that cycle of looking inwards, identifying our strengths, looking outwards, getting ideas, looking and learning from where's going on elsewhere, and then looking forwards. And those signpost questions are: how are we doing? How do we know? And what are we going to do now? We thought about that cycle, effective learning, teaching and assessment cycle, and the good lesson model, and all the features that we would hope to see within standard lessons for maths and numeracy. We did spend some time thinking about how do we know, because this was something that through inspection we knew we had to develop. So particularly in terms of our curricular area, we looked at quality of our data in terms of progression for our children and young people, what data are we gathering and why, the range of assessment to support us with that data. We spoke about views in terms of how often, how frequently, and how well are we asking children and young people about their learning in that specific curricular area. How are we engaging with stakeholders to enhance our improvement planning? And again, from parents and carers. We also spoke about direct observation in terms of the quality assurance processes that go on, but how we could widen that for teachers to share lessons, do model teaching, who could possibly do learning walks, and could build that culture of self-evaluation and inquiry within their own settings. So using all of that, we worked with a small group of local authority leads, head teachers and middle leaders from across local authorities to write this framework, which is currently being advanced piloted. You can see from this introduction section, we have 4 key themes that will very much incorporate what I've discussed in the previous slides, then align to the inspection findings. There's also a section which provides ideas on ways you can gather evidence for your curricular area and how we can collect views and feedback that validates us in our improvement considerations. A sketch note, like the one that's on the screen, has been developed that basically puts a plan on a page, has our guiding questions and signposts that I've referred to previously, and it creates the sub-themes and also highlights some prompt words so that staff can engage in one section at a time to identify where they would like to start in their improvement journey. This is a section of one of the areas, so this is a leadership, culture, ethos and strategy. At the left hand side here you can see some of the thematic messages that relate to this particular theme, and over at the right hand side you can see aligned to How Good is Our School quality indicators and the quality improvement themes from Quality Improvement Framework for Early Learning and Childcare. Within each of those subsections, there is a journey grid similar to one that's on the screen just now. And you can see here these prompt words to help schools identify, or departments, teachers to identify where to start, what's the main item that they want to focus in on for an inquiry within their setting to consider an area for improvement. There's reflective questions down the left-hand side about high quality learning teaching in the curriculum area. And we have a 1, 2, 3 kind of grading grid. There's the definitions to the right-hand side that help staff to identify where they are on their improvement journey. And the debate and challenged professional learning in relation to these questions can be really robust. There is a question which is impartial for staff to consider, to inquire, and then look at as a team to identify areas of strength, the evidence that they have to validate their judgments in relation to that being a particular strength, and also areas for improvement, next steps, some ideas they might want to take forward to continue to develop the practice. At the bottom here, there are links to professional learning, further research that they might want to consider, if there's a reflective question or a challenge question that they want to learn more about in order to consider where they are on their journey. This is an example of a completed journey grid, and you can see a scatter of 1, 2s and 3s within the grading, and also some ideas in terms of thought showers of things that are going on within this fixatious setting. You can see that from this, school have identified particular areas and next steps and actions that they want to take forward. And from the feedback we've had, schools and departments are reporting that through the use of the framework, they're sharper in creating smart targets and smart aims for their school improvement plan, which leads to more impactful action. This is a short video on one local authority's insights and views on the framework.
So I see the framework as being an essential element of quality improvement and quality assurance within our schools. It will be a very useful tool for senior leaders and middle leaders and practitioners across schools and establishments to engage with and really to focus in on key themes relating to numeracy and mathematics learning and teaching. I see a real strength of the framework in the fact that it has been developed alongside and in tandem with the technical mathematics framework and the curriculum improvement cycle. I really do think this will support the implementation of the new curriculum across Scotland, and particularly the fact that it's been developed alongside the big ideas which have been developed through the curriculum review.
And we've got another video here, bear with me, sometimes it clicks on, there we go.
We've got a nursery, ASN classes with children with complex needs and our mainstream school, and sometimes we will look at key aspects of the self-evaluation framework as a whole, collegiately, and sometimes we split off. And for this particular aspect of self-evaluation, we felt it was more relevant to split off into groups because we really wanted to focus in each department in the school. So our 5 supported classes, they work together, our whole nursery team work together, and first level, early level and second level, they all work together in separate groups. And the point of this was to get feedback from these groups, because sometimes it's a little bit different at certain stages in the primary school. We wanted a holistic report from each individual department in the school. What we did was we looked at areas of learning and teaching and the curriculum, the subheadings of the self-evaluation framework, and we got the staff to look at where we were, read each statement. They were to indicate red if they felt as if it was something that we hadn't done at all, and I was hoping there wouldn't be many of those considering we'd been working on numeracy for 3 years. Amber was, we're on our journey with that, we've still got bits to do, and green was, we're absolutely where we should be and where we want to be. So that's basically how we set up our self-evaluation with the staff. And the staff broke off into groups, and as we normally do, they used the questions as a basis for discussion. They used the traffic light code to formulate where they felt they were, and then they looked at the areas of strength in the school and the areas for improvement and next steps. And as a management team following that, what we do is then accumulate all their kind of responses and summarise what are the next steps the staff are all telling us. We then will be going back to the staff in August and saying, right, this is what you've told us, and this is what we're going to do next.
So just some additional feedback. One of the local authorities, South Lanarkshire, had a school identified for inspection, and we were delighted to see that within the summary of inspection findings, the self-evaluation framework was noted very positively in the ways it had supported the school in terms of their journey to improvement. The school got very good inspection and got very good grading against learning, teaching and assessment. This is a quote from another local authority within Scotland, a quality improvement officer who works with a range of schools on their improvement planning and their journey for improvement. And you can see some quotes here on from this local authority rep on how the framework has provided schools as a useful tool to support their improvement professional learning. So that's us at the end of our presentation. We hope that you have found this session useful. It has been a short session and there's lots packed in. I'm sure you've got lots of questions and things you might want to take away and reflect on. Just to revisit the intentions, we hope that you have found the insights on the Scotland's curriculum improvement cycle insightful. We hope that the collaborative approach in relation to how we've co-constructed and developed a shared ownership of the curriculum has helped you think and consider your own context. And again, we've referenced some research and policies that have been used in Scotland to drive that change. And again, we've highlighted the use of the self-evaluation framework that we're seeing as a useful tool to scaffold schools' readiness for change. Should you have any questions after today that you'd like to come and speak to us about, or you would like some further information, Maria and my own email address is there. Please do not hesitate to reach out. And that very much is at the end of the presentation. Just like to say thank you for your time today. We've thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.